Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam, namo namaha. Please join our website at classicalyoga.org and stand up for the Dharma. Karma Yoga. From the moment we wake up in the morning, we start to act. Action and reaction is a natural law of life. Newton recognized it in his laws of motion, the third law. And of course, Hindus knew this thousands of years prior with the gunas. Tamas is inertia, rajas is both acceleration and action-reaction, or cause and effect. This is the world of duality, the world of multiplicity. Hindus understand this as the Sanskrit Hindu word karma, which comes from the root kri, meaning to work, to act. And again, this is primal to being alive. It's all around us in the animal world, obviously in the human world, in the natural world itself. There is action and reaction. However, karma is much more than simple action and reaction. Remember that the Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindu word yoga, yogam, means yuj atman brahmancha, to yoke to one's soul and soul source, Atman Brahman. So therefore, karma yoga, which is supposed to be the first yoga once we have chosen to follow the Hindu path, Hindu dharma, karma yoga means seeking this spiritual union, if you will, or atma darshana, paramodharma, through living a life of ethics and selfless service. Therefore, to truly be karma and karma yoga, it must be an understanding of the law of cause and effect that either advances or retards the realization of our soul. If there's no soul element, it is simply the scientific law of cause and effect. Karma yoga. If we actually look at the way karma is spelt when we use English, K-A-R-M-A, there's arm right in the middle. So it means working. Getting up and working. We all do work, but what kind of work is important? Is it honest work? Is it dishonest work? Is it ethical? Is it unethical? And truly, all the religions of the world have their basic ethical codes of conduct. For this is life itself. Every parent teaches their children, or every offspring in the animal world teaches behavior modes to their offspring. Even in the secular world, there are all kinds of rules and regulations on the job site. If you go to a restaurant, no shoes, no shirt, no service. There's ethical rules of conduct in schools. Today, of course, with the pandemic, we have all kinds of restrictions and rules. And this is for the benefit not only of the individual, but for society at large. So karma yoga is supposed to be the first and foundational yoga once one has chosen to follow the Hindu path. The other religions of the world have their specific codes of conduct. For example, the Ten Commandments of the Jews, which the Christians, quote-unquote, borrowed. Interestingly, in today's so-called yoga, which is actually extremely unethical, very bad karma, how many times do you see classes in karma yoga? Remember, the Sanskrit Tamil Hindu word yoga yogam simply means to yoke, simply but profoundly, to yoke to your Atmana and Brahman. This is why the prefix is absolutely necessary to make this word meaningful. So the first yoga is karma yoga, ethics and selfless service. And we see this throughout Hinduism in our many, many scriptures. In the Vedas, for example, in Katha Upanishad, Yama is actually a deity, the deity of death. Meaning not death to the ego, but a refinement of the ego. Be very cautious of any individual group who tells you they're out to destroy or kill your ego. The only people who have no ego are either dead or suffering from some serious mental condition. So Yama becomes the guru who instructs the young Chela Nachiketa in how to refine or control his ego. So karma must be first. Karma are essentially the roots of existence, the roots of a tree that hold everything together. They're not visible most of the time, so that's why karma yoga, it's not exciting like Raja Yoga, chakras, kundalini, all of those new agey things that are so appealing to many people. But without strong, healthy, ethical, honest roots in life, no matter what else we do, it will eventually fall apart. Now, interestingly, in the Vedas, they often divide the Vedas into 3 sections: Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Jnana Kanda. And we've spoken about this when we defined the classic Hindu yogas. But Kanda means root. So here Kanda is synonymous with yoga, to yoke, to join. The roots of our existence, what's holding us together, Karma Kanda. So we read in Katha Upanishad about Yama. We read in Shvetashvetaru Upanishad, train your senses to be obedient. In the Agamas, they actually term Karma Yoga Charye. And we have the famous Tirumantram. Surely then the senses 5 come under your control. We have the famous Tirukural, especially in the south of India, where the Tirukural is actually the holy book that's used to swear upon in courts of law. And it is basically a book on karma yoga, learning to do the right thing. It's a beautiful read. Of course, we have the classic Ramayana, with Hanumanji being the epitome of the karma yogi and the bhakti yogi. Again, this is why it's so important not to misuse the Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindu word yoga, yogam, as simply what is supposed to be hatha yoga, but even there it's completely distorted from what is true hatha yoga. Because if we simply use yoga to mean that one small aspect of Hinduism, we're actually insulting Hanumanji, who's considered the great karma yogi and bhakti yogi. In the Bhagavad Gita, of course, in the center of the Mahabharata, Krishna speaks of the essential nature of karma yoga. We have a whole chapter on karma yoga, doing the right thing. Now, in our various scriptures on the specifics of hatha yoga and chakras and kundalini, etc., such as the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Yogi Svatmarama. And remember, this Hatha Yoga is supposed to be kept rather secret. Please visit our podcast on the secret yoga. But Yogi Svatmarama, he speaks of the yamas. Patanjali was not the first one to create the yamas. Remember, he actually is just compiling what was already existing within the Hindu yoga dharma. So Yogi Svatmarama teaches his disciples, his chelas, his shishyas, the importance of yamas and niyamas. In the Siva Samhita, Siva Parvati are speaking about the performance of good karma, good deeds. Yogi Gorakanath in the Siddha Siddhantapadati speaks of virtue being the reward and bringing the reward of happiness. In the Goranda Samhita, it recognizes the basic law of karma, that all creatures move through life due to karma. And all of our great and noted Hindu saints and sages, from Vivekananda to Ramakrishna, to Tagore, to Gandhi, to Aurobindo, to Ghosh, to Ramana Maharishi, Swami Sivananda, Radhakrishna, and all, etc., they all spoke of the importance of the foundation of karma yoga, learning to do the right thing. And this is important that we be instructed from young in proper behavior, proper manners. You can see this in Hindu culture. The children are taught to respect their elders, bow to their feet, to speak when spoken to, and not try to dominate the elders in a conversation. Now, obviously, when it comes to being ethical and honest, many have a very distorted view of what this means, and that's precisely because they're not in touch with their Atmana or their soul. Remember, that's what makes it karma yoga. Understanding our actions and reactions from the point of view of the Atmana, of the soul of love, light, and energy, so that our actions do not become a perverted sense of love of ego self primarily. So in Hindu Yoga Dharma, we have many codes of conduct. And a classic one are the yamas and the niyamas, which Patanjali also spoke of. However, this is really important because Patanjali's yamas and niyamas are extremely intense, and they're meant only for male Hindu Saiva brahmacharis in training. So just like in life in general, there are many ethical codes, and they can change according to your position in life, depending on your responsibilities, depending upon your job description. The ethical codes may be much more intense. The ethical codes are, for example, extremely intense for those in law and judges. So the yamas and the niyamas, it's a wonderful read, but this has been so distorted and taken out of context by today's spurious, unethical, bad karmic yoga movement, where they completely redefine the yamas and the niyamas to suit their agenda. However, we do have a modified code of the yamas and the niyamas that would apply to everyone, because again, the yamas and niyamas of Patanjali are intensely devoted towards the Saiva Hindu male brahmacharya celibate who is on a quest to go beyond the material world. However, being in the material world, we can use the modified code to our benefit, and you'll notice how across the board, no matter what country, what culture, there are many of these ethical codes of conduct that are very similar, and that's understandable. So let's look at a modified code of the yamas, and a memorization technique is to spell or misspell, actually, the word add-sell. 2 A's, A-A-D-D-S-E-L-L, add-sell. So the first one is the only Sanskrit word we'll use here, and that's ahimsa. Ahimsa means striving to be nonviolent. The next A is avoid anger. Remember, anger is a state of mind, just like the state of California. We can choose to go there or not. For example, you're not angry at this moment, so it's a state of being that we can choose to drive into, if you will, or not. This brings about the cliche of driving your own karma, in other words, taking responsibility for our own actions. Ahimsa, avoid anger. Discipline desires. Avoid drunkenness. And the two words are important because we all have desires. We just need to discipline our desires. Now, we can drink of life in many ways, but avoid drunkenness. And this is not just simply alcohol and drugs, but being drunk on power, sex, money. Avoid drunkenness. Do not steal. Very common. Avoid evil company. There is evil company. There's a Hindu proverb, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Do not lie. Do not lust. And again, lust means excessive desire for anything. Sex, money, power. Ahimsa, avoid anger, discipline desire, avoid drunkenness, do not steal, avoid evil company, do not lie, and do not lust. These are what we call the yamas, or the restraints. These are the do-nots. All ethical codes have their do-nots and their do's. The niyamas, which means to cultivate, are the things that we strive to do. So here we start the alphabet at B and go through to H. So be pure in body, mind, and speech. This is pretty self-explanatory. Be pure in body, mind, and speech. And speech is important. Today, many people use foul language just as commonplace, but be careful about the language that we use. Be pure in body, mind, and speech. Seek contentment rather than being a malcontent. Cultivate devotion. And this is important when we do a podcast on Bhakti Yoga, which is the second yoga of devotion, which is really a secret ingredient of life. Without devotion, we won't be successful in life. However, we could be devoted to the wrong thing. That's why ethics or karma yoga is the first and foundational yoga. Cultivate devotion. Educate yourself. Never stop learning, no matter what your age. Love your fellow person. be giving. And be steadfast in hardship. Be pure in body, mind, and speech. Seek contentment. Cultivate devotion. Educate yourself. Love your fellow person. Be giving. Be steadfast in hardship. So finally, we realize that life is not always easy. So sometimes when we're going through really rough times, which we all will, just kind of hang in there. Try to do the right thing. So this is our modified code of the yamas and the niyamas, because again, Patanjali's was so extreme. In the yamas, for example, do not lust is actually brahmacharya, absolute celibacy. In the niyamas, the purity is saucha. And here, this is very intense, because Patanjali is telling his chelas that saucha svanga jigupsa paraira samsargaha. You develop true purity when you're disgusted. Wow. Jigupsa. With your own body and the body of others. Wow. How does this play in today's mass yoga exercise studio movement? Living the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific lifestyle is something that we do on a daily basis. So every day we practice all of our classic Hindu yogas: karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, gyan yoga, hatha yoga, mantra yoga, japa yoga, nada yoga, nata yoga. And if we look at the analogy of the tree, and we have a tree pose in hatha yoga, vrikshasana, we see to be a complete, fully blooming, blossoming tree, we need to have all these elements going on all of the time. The roots, karma yoga. The trunk reaching up, bhakti yoga. The branching out, the leaves, the flowering of raja yoga, the royal state of contemplation. In the fruit of gyan yoga. So we're doing all these yogas. It's not pick and choose. Of course, we can highlight the various yogas at times, but it's not really that we do karma yoga and we're not really doing bhakti yoga. No, we're to be a fully blooming tree. You're doing it all the time. This is the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific lifestyle. However, we can also look at the various seasons of the year. And if we live in a climate where we have 4 definite seasons, we can clearly see that summertime is karma yoga time. This is the time when everybody's out working. Lots of physical work. Karma yoga. In the fall of the year, this is the time for bhakti yoga. This is when many of the festivals, our utsavas, starting with Ganesh Chaturthi, begin. And then in the winter season, this is the time to literally go within in Raja Yoga meditation. And then in the springtime, we get the results or the fruit of Jnana Yoga, and then start the whole cycle all over again. So again, we can do this on a moment-to-moment basis, on a 24-hour cycle, on a yearly cycle. Daily we get up, Karma Yoga. We light our diya, Bhakti Yoga. We sit in contemplation for a moment, Raja Yoga. And then we receive the fruits of that and we go on through our day. So let's all be strong in the Hindu yoga dharma and perform action. Don't be a lazy Hindu, L-A-Z-Y, because if we do, which unfortunately is what we have done, L-A-Z-Y, we lose zero, yoga, etc., etc., etc. Simply confronting another for their misdeeds or abuse of our Hindu yoga dharma does not constitute breaking karma yoga. In fact, it's the right thing to do. Ethics and selfless service. So get up, Hindus, and start acting. And if we look at some English words here, the suffix tion is action. Action. We can choose no action, a negative reaction, or we can choose proaction. Procrastination, however, creates a negative situation. A fascination with capitulation can create humiliation of an entire nation. A saturation of false information creates a delusional identification. and confused accommodation. An inclination towards appropriation causes frustration and ultimate confrontation. The stimulation of imagination. Imagination without manifestation is simply more procrastination. Imagination, however, can create dangerous innovation or a healthy creation. Be careful of idolization, which is a temptation and often results in an unhealthy relation. Therefore, continual education towards illumination. This is living the classical Hindu religious, spiritual, yogic, scientific lifestyle, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, gyan yoga, hatha yoga, mantra yoga, japa yoga, nada yoga, nata yoga, kundalini yoga. Karma bhakti raja yana. This is the way to nirvana. Charye, karye, yogam, and yanam. This is the same as we just told you. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. How many times do we have to tell the all of yoga is Sanatana Dharma? This is Hinduism. Watch your Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Yana Kanda. Om Jai Ganesh, Jai Hindu Yoga Dharma.